Hello Glitch fam, this is Daz from Glitchy Normality coming back at you with another Pokemon TCG Pocket deck profile. And well, there's this deck that I've kind of cooked up from ranked, took it from Pokeball 1 to Great Ball rank 3 almost. So again, not the highest elo in the world, but I'm slowly climbing up. I haven't been taking ranked as seriously as I should be as it's come out, but yeah, I'm bringing sort of a budget deck. I know there's a lot of full arts in this deck, so it kind of doesn't look that budget, but I promise you it is. Actually looking at this, you could probably actually get away with playing this in some of the missions to get your 3 diamond and lower and some of the PvE stuff. But yeah, so with this, with EXs, ever tired of EXs ruling the meta? You know, back in where people were like, man, I wish a non-EX format existed. Well, with this deck, you can essentially take your Sudowoodo, take your Marshadow, take your Lucario into ranked, run into what most of the decks are, EX decks, and bop them in the head for a lot of damage. So the core strategy behind this deck is pretty much like it's got your fighting kind of tools and Pokemon and stuff in there. So the cards we play in the deck, we played 2 Riolu from Space Time Smackdown. There's 1 for 20. Again, just your standard Riolu. And then it plays the Fighting Coach Lucario. So what this card does, for anyone who doesn't know, for each of your fighting Pokemon in play, it buffs the attack of all your fighting Pokemon's attacks by 20. And fun little fact to know about this is you can stack the effect. So if you got both Lucarios out, you buff your attacks by 40. So yeah, the strategy behind this deck is every Pokemon attacks for 1 or 2 energy, so it's pretty hyper aggressive. And also, one of the other Pokemon in the deck is Sudowoodo. Ideally, the card you want to start with. So, Sudowoodo's attack does 20, but if there's an EX Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field, it does 30 more, so it's 1 energy for 50 damage. Which, if you go second and you're staring down a basic EX, you're hitting them for like a third of their HP already before they even really get to do much, to be honest, especially when you go second and they go first, or even if you go first and they attach an energy, you can still attack on your second turn and do a lot of damage. So yeah, it's really strong in that regard. Again, it's just with people getting really frustrated with the Giratina Darkrai deck going around, or any variant of Giratina deck, because Giratina can power itself up turn 2, turn 3 and start swinging. You know, people are really upset with that, and it's a really strong card. Like, I've played the deck myself a little bit. I understand where people are coming from, because you can just sit back, let your Darkrai power up poke, and then just let your Giratina power up and just do a lot of damage. It can be frustrating to go against in ladder, but I do feel like this deck's a solid check to it, because whereas that deck has to wait a couple of turns to get going, this deck can literally start hitting turn 1, turn 2, and by the time they've built up, you've probably already took a knockout, to be honest. And one other great thing about this deck is, this deck itself plays no EX Pokemon, so they have to take 3 points. So you have to knock out 3 of Pokemon, which, you know, that's always good, forcing them to take 3 knockouts. So if your opponent's not playing a spread deck like Trio, Dragonite, or the new Rayquaza EX, yeah, they have to, or heck, I guess even Palkia, because Palkia is still floating about. I've seen a lot on the ladder recently. So yeah, for the rest of the deck, one other Pokemon I mentioned, or haven't mentioned yet, is Marshadow, a fun little card that me and Rox were talking about, memeing on, going, I should probably take it out, because in a couple of the matches I have started with it and gone second, so it just kind of felt like a dead card. However, this thing, if it comes in, Again, it's not that hard to power up, and it can just straight up just one-shot EX Pokemon, or just any Pokemon that kills one of your Pokemon by damage. It does 100 for 2 energy, which is pretty strong, especially if something's weak to it, like Arceus still sees a lot of play. You can, if you have a Lucario on the field, that's 120 plus weakness, you're one-shotting, you literally cold-blood one-shotting an Arceus from full health. And if it's got a giant cape on it, you can use a red to still cold-blooded one-shot it, which is pretty amazing, to be honest. So that's the Pokemon in the deck, really, and the strategy of the Pokemon. I'll just talk and babble about the trainers. So again, you want to go for consistency as much as possible. So you got 2 Pokeball, 2 Pokemon Communication. Again, Lucario is an evolution line, so you want to find your Lucario's as fast as possible, since it's one of the key centerpieces of buffing your damage. And obviously you want to find your basics like Sudowoodo and Marshadow at key points. Ideally not starting with a Marshadow, but hey hey. For the Pokemon tool, I decided to choose Rocky Helmet over Giant Cape. Giant Cape actually in some of the matches would be good, and if I could find space for it in the deck, I probably would. If I probably would add another card to the deck. I may take out Giovanni, but Giovanni's kind of been useful, so that's a card I probably would recommend subbing out if you were to change it up a little bit. But yeah, the reasoning behind Rocky Helmet is it just adds 20 extra damage if your opponent tries to attack you, so it's just about racking up more damage rather than making your Pokemon more tanky, because I feel like this deck's aggressive, so it just helps with that kind of theme of just killing your opponent's Pokemon as fast as possible. It's just damage, pressure, especially if they've got like Pokemon that need a lot of energy. So that's the thought process behind that Pokemon tool. To Professor's Research, again, just you draw a card, every deck should play it, there's no reason why any deck shouldn't play it. Giovanni, again, it buffs your damage by 10, there is no restriction to it, unlike Red, so yeah, again, I do think this card, you can replace it for a Giant Cape if you want to, just so it puts some Pokemon out of range. It makes your Sudowoodo's Marshadow 100 HP instead of 80, since there are a lot of attacks that do 80 damage and just one-shot your Pokemon, so the main weakness of this deck is the Pokemon are a little squishy. I mean, your best Pokemon in terms of HP is Lucario, and you don't really want to be putting that out front and attacking with it. I mean, I have used it to attack before, and especially if it is powered up by like Red and its own ability, it can do a nice chunk of damage, but it's mainly your support Pokemon. There are no switching cards in this deck, so it does have a fat 2 retreat cost, which isn't great either. Your Sudowoodo's, although that has 2 retreat, you just want to be attacking with it anyway, so you don't really want to be retreating it, so that's not necessarily a problem. It's more of a problem if your Lucario is stuck in the active than with your Sudowoodo. But the good thing is, though, because Lucario's attack is not great, but you can still attack with it and still win the game with it, it's not awful if your opponent tries to bring it out, trying to stall, because you can still power it up and still attack with it, so, but yeah. And then we have Cyrus. Cyrus, still, in my opinion, the strongest supporter in the game. It punishes your opponent just for backing up, trying to save their Pokemon if they're injured. Yeah, I've caught a few people off guard trying to do that, and then just cheeky Cyrus for the game. Sabrina, same vein in that regard. I still think it's really versatile, which is why I play 1-1 and not 2 Cyrus, because Sabrina, you can still move anything around at any point in the game. There are times where I do prefer Cyrus over it, but there's also some times where Cyrus is just dead clogging your hand at the start of the game, where you could use Sabrina to disrupt, which is why I still prefer 1-1 rather than 2 of the other. I mean, I guess, hell, if it's your jam, instead of playing a Giant Cape, you could probably play an extra Cyrus if you feel like you want to, but I feel like the Giovanni can come in clutch sometimes. And then also the other boosting card of the deck is Red. Again, red kind of works with the no EX thing. It's a better damage buffer in most circumstances, since most decks are playing EXs out there, and it buffs your damage by 20 damage if you're attacking an EX Pokemon, which again, you stack that with Sudowoodo. Sudowoodo is hitting for 70 damage from 1 energy. You stack that with the Lucario, that's 90 damage. And then, you know, the Rocky Helmet, that's potentially 110 damage for 1 energy. And then if you attack an Arceus, which is weak to it, that's 130 for 1 energy, which is absolutely ridiculous and insane, to be honest, you know. And then if your opponent, and then you put your opponent in a situation with, well, they can't attack with the Arceus again, because they'll just knock themselves out if it's not got a cape on it. So, yeah, red is one of the sneaky good trainers. I don't really think it's sneaky good. A lot of people are playing it at the moment, but they're probably only playing one copy because, yeah, it's a deck that you kind of played like one off, like with Giovanni, but yeah, I am kind of maxing out on the damage buffers because, again, this deck is just pure aggression. But yeah, that's essentially the deck, guys. Go ahead, try it out for yourself. Again, I do think it's pretty okay in the meta because, again, Arceus is still a really strong card and that's not going to go away anytime soon, I don't think. So you can take advantage of this being like an Arceus EX Slayer. It slays a lot of good other archetypes in the meta right now, just because, again, EXs are the thing, unless they introduce maybe Vs in the future. Who knows where mechanics and stuff are going to go in this game. To be honest, because the game's opened up now with a lot more packs, I think it's in a really healthy state. To be honest, there's a lot of decks, like there are still, as I said, there are still the Giratina decks which people get really upset with, but I still think those decks take some skill to pilot and stuff, and I know it's frustrating running them into the meta, but, you know, I just feel like this is a deck that, you know, can catch people off guard and, you know, can just kind of just run amok against EX decks. So yeah, feel free to give it a try, guys. I'll record some videos later on with some gameplay footage, go into some ranked games and show you how the deck works, and then you guys can test it out for yourself. But until next time, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe, join the Glitch family. We'd really love to see you over and have comments and discussions about what your favourite deck is and what deck you think is the counter to EXs, or just what you think is really good in the meta right now. Anyway, this has been Daz from Glitch and Normality. Have a good day, guys. Take care. Peace.